Well, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wait, Geisha Gaviniskis, Tansei, Tanishi. Um, Hi, hello, bonjour, hola. If I haven't said hello in a way that speaks to your heart, please feel free to say hello in the chat. Some people have also found the emojis, the react button at the bottom of your bar. We are in webinar mode because nearly 3,000 of you wonderful humans. I'm presuming you're all humans. Don't want to be presumptuous, but you never know. You all signed up to be here with us, and so we really, really appreciate you. And if you're watching the recording, we appreciate you rolling up when it suited you too. We've actually got a bunch of folks who are living across the ocean, I think, across an ocean from us right now, and so they have joined us really late at night. Right now, we're listening to some morning bird song, and hopefully, you'll stay with us for the whole thing. I'm going to dive in and share my screen, and we can uh, get started on all this good stuff. So, it is the 22nd of April, everyone, and it's Earth Day. So, welcome to Earth Day. What a great day to show our appreciation for the outdoors and all outdoor learning offers us and provides us with and brings joy into our life. I've been outside teaching and spending time with young people all day, so my voice is a little hoarse today. But we are going to do outdoor learning across the curriculum. What could be a better topic for the day? I'm going to start as always with a land acknowledgement, and it's spring is here. Spring is here, like the birds are singing. And I join you from Sinixt territory, the people of the Bull Trout. And this was along the banks of Sintwyn the Swift River, otherwise colonially known as the Columbia River. And on our morning investigations today, we found evidence of sunk is beaver in Selchine, the traditional language of the place, which I gratefully call home. And so we saw that. And this is a very excitable Jack Russell called Otis, who we keep away. We see beaver activity and we move away because A, we want the beavers to have their place and their home and be safe. And also, I don't know how beaver versus Otis would unfold, but he does love the beach. And so we were on the banks of the river. We moved away from the dam and spent some time out there. And I was very grateful. This river and its resources and this place are also incredibly important and home and places of story and relationship for the Secwepemc or Secwepem, the Silch, Okanagan, and the Tlacha First Nations who reside at the headwaters of this riverland. And so I'm deeply grateful today and every day for my relationship with the mother and for all of the time I get to spend with her and all of my relatives out there. You know us, we've always got a lot going on because we want to provide you with all of the knowledge. And if you are learning more and wanting to learn more about Indigenous ways of knowing and being, we have some fantastic upcoming events. You can join us in just 2 days if you want to hear Linda Kaser and Judy Halbert talk about spirals of inquiry and Indigenous pedagogy in education. It's going to be a real treat. We also start next week. We have over 700 educators signed up already, but our introductory Mischief language course, and we would love as many of you to join us as possible. As always, would be free for Indigenous participants. And in May, we've got the incredible Monique Gray Smith, who adapted Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass, for a young adult / anyone audience. And she's running a 4-part series on it with us, which is a deep dive into all of the lessons and the connections within that. So if you like that, come on down. And we've just released the next season of our 4 seasons of Indigenous learning, where you can join us year after year to learn from a diverse group of Indigenous speakers, educators, writers, authors, and the registration is just open, so we encourage you to take a peek. My wonderful friend and amazing colleague, Rachel, is here with us too.
Hi, everybody. I'm joining you from Treaty 1 territory. There's whole lands of the Anishinaabe, Innuit, and the Dakota, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. And it's so funny that, Jade, you also have signs of beavers because where I commonly walk my dogs along the river in Winnipeg, all winter I've been seeing this beaver just make its mark on our after work route. And it's so funny how the same creature can have such evident presence in two very different places from one another. So I'm really fortunate tonight to be here to help support this workshop from Take Me Outside. Um, and on behalf of our organization, the other 30 plus outdoor learning partners, we're excited to be here. I do want to share with you that we have our course has been here since March of last year. Some of you maybe have taken it or enrolled in it or working your way through. We're really excited to announce that we've done some recent revamps to the course. The content and the intent has not changed, but some of the kind of logistics and back end pieces of the course have changed. So we really encourage you that if you aren't enrolled, to check it out. Jade put the link in the chat there for you to check out. We'll also be launching our French version of the course very soon, so stay tuned for more details regarding that.
Fantastic. I didn't put the link in the chat, but I will do it while we're doing this. And here we go, friends. I just want to just say a quick hello and see who is here. So there's a 2-question chat coming up. It's going to ask us what kind of educator you are and where you might be joining us from. Due to the limitations of Zoom polls, rest of the world is just one category outside of the areas of North America, or what some people refer to as Turtle Island. So please feel free to have a little texty in the chat and let us know if you're joining us from further afield. Rachel's on the links. Always. Okay, we're going to leave it open for just like a few more seconds here. I know not everyone will get a chance to do it in that short time. Okay, I'm closing in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results. Okay, so we have a pretty good split across the sort of grade ranges. We have quite a few early childhood educators here, fantastic. And people from every kind of educator thought background that we could create, and not strictly educators too. So anyone who shares information is an educator for us, and we're really glad that each and every one of you is here. And we've got representation from around the world, from around our continent, and a little bit from the rest of the world. So 1%, if you're the 1%, perhaps you can send in the chat where you are joining us from. Okay, I'm going to keep on scooching through. As you know, we've partnered with over 100 outdoor learning non-profits and charities and international organisations that are dedicated to supporting you in going outside. So whether you're looking for funding, resources, state-specific or province or location, we hope that we have curated some friends to support you. There's a link in the chat and you can find them there. And we hope that you will enjoy what they have to offer. And we're here, the main event. Really 4 fantastically knowledgeable and, incredible humans to share with us today about outdoor learning across the curriculum. And this is one of the many publications that they have created. And I'm very, very glad that they're here with us. In no particular order, Simon Beams is Professor of Friluftsliv, at the Norwegian School of Sports Sciences in Oslo, in Norway. He's originally from Montreal, Canada, and has been teaching outdoors for over 30 years, predominantly in Southeast Asia, North America, and Europe. Joining also is Heidi Smith, who's a lecturer of outdoor and environmental education at the University of Edinburgh. Her research interests focus on strong links between theory and practice, yes, and include leadership, praxis, transculturality, place-based education, intersectionality, and student and educator experiences. Peter Higgins also joins us, and Pete is the chair of Outdoor Environmental and Sustainability Education at the University of Edinburgh. And from 2013 to 2024, he was the director of Scotland's United Nations University Centre of Expertise in Education for Sustainable Development. I wonder what the acronym is. Does one exist? I imagine it's long, but that was lovely. Learning for Sustainability Scotland. There you go. That's a bit shorter. And last but certainly not least is Robbie Nicol, who is a professor of place-based education at the University of Edinburgh as well. He's a teacher, researcher, and residential education campaigner. His life motivation comes from the realization that human activities are fundamentally altering the planet's ability to sustain all species, including the human race. He believes that the outdoors provides places where individuals can rediscover their direct dependence on the planet through embodied experiences. And hopefully, we're going to have an embodied experience with us all together. And I shall pass it over to you, incredibly wise folks, and say thank you so much for being here.
How's that working?
We see it.
We
So,
see it. And do you hear me?
we do.
Wonderful. Well, what a welcome. Thank you so much, Jade and Rachel, for that amazing introduction, and welcome everybody. I remember during the pandemic, some of us thought we were pretty clever if 30 or 40 people showed up for an event, and I just see the numbers counting. We're over 340. So this is, well, it's a bit mind-blowing. So thanks for being here. We'd also like to acknowledge that there's just a huge amount of expertise kind of in the room, and I know when we're kind of on stage now about to present some of this some of the key ideas in the book, but I guess we know that you all are seasoned educators and know what you're doing, so that we kind of come with a certain humility as well as some enthusiasm, of course, to share what we've been up to. Right, I'll jump right in. So we thought it would be important to say a couple of words about where this book came from, because it wasn't just, oh, well, let's get together for a couple of long weekends and make some notes and write a book about this, as Robbie and Pete said earlier to me. Oh, well, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and indeed we are. And so I thought about this, and I mean, so when I worked at the University of Edinburgh before with these three characters, and the program there started in 1972. It's the longest running postgraduate program in outdoor environmental education. And so there's been a tradition that began there, and then when Pete and Robbie joined in the 1990s, and were really starting to write and research more, that then fed into curriculum change that was happening on a national level in Scotland in the 2000s, with a new national curriculum called Curriculum for Excellence. And that then led to, in 2010, a landmark document called Curriculum for Excellence for Outdoor Learning, through Outdoor Learning, which is, you can see in the top right of the screen here. And that was a document that stated that pupils had all pupils had to be taught some part of their formal curriculum outdoors, and with that came the requirement for teachers. They became a duty for them to provide that. Well, this and during this time, the early 2000s, and we were developing teacher education courses at the University of Edinburgh, and also providing training for in-service teachers. So what more do you need to support all of this amazing stuff happening? You need a book to kind of hold it all together. And I can't remember how Pete met Naomi from Routledge in New York City, but you'll have to remind me sometime, Pete. Anyway, the book that you see in the middle of the screen, that came out in 2011. And so yeah, just really wanted to say that it's something that's come from has a certain history to it, that predates our involvement in this program that we've all worked on and continue to work on. And so even though this is, we think this latest book is a book for everybody, it really does have its roots in the Scottish context, and this, if there could be something that was an Edinburgh approach, in terms of and another thing I'll say is there's a little open secret here that maybe you could we wanted to share, but we think you'll probably figure out pretty quickly, and that this really is not just a book about learning outdoors. It's a book about outdoor education. This is a book about education. This is a book about learning and teaching, and so we hope you'll keep that in the backs of your minds. What you see here is the table of contents. There are 12 chapters, and the way we're going to present them now, just to make we think is the most logical way, is that we're each going to focus on 3-ish chapters each, and these are ones that we were more heavily, we all had a hand in writing every chapter, but these are the ones that we'll present are the ones that we were a bit more heavily involved in leading the writing of. So we're going to go to Pete first to talk about chapters 1 and 4, and then 3.
Thanks, Simon. And yes, I'm just drawing these 2 chapters together for particular reasons. And essentially, when it comes to thinking about the big challenges for society, I couldn't leave learning for sustainability out of those big challenges as a separate chapter. In the book, we write about big challenges, then we write about learning for sustainability in a particular context, because we feel it had needed that particular attention. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't know what the future holds, and yet there are many big challenges out there that we historically have faced. Social change, growing social inequality, etc. There are many that you can see on the left-hand side that will be familiar. And of course, there are new ones. There are new challenges that arise. And artificial intelligence will be one of those. It's not a panacea. And a great author that I regard very highly, Yuval Noah Harari, referred to AI as a demon which we've unleashed and probably have no idea how to control. And he stated how unwise that is. Now, these are things that our young people are growing up to learn to live with. Now, sustainability I've pulled in here as a particular issue within the context of what we all know to be the twin climate and nature crises. And they are twin, they are joined, and they're the solution to one crisis is in the hands of the other, and vice versa. Indeed, really, it's in our hands to make those links and to do something about them. But of course, not everybody agrees that that's the case. But the consequence of having an unsustainable set of planetary systems is, of course, social injustice, and that is manifest around the globe and increasingly significant. For our learners, of course, there's the compounding issue of what I've referred to, stealing the idea from somebody else, as I always do, the collapse of the information ecosystem. We can't really know what truth is anymore in the context that young learners are now growing up and having to face the world. And much of this, of course, is leading to mental and physical health issues, etc. I think we'll just move on to the next slide, please, Simon, where you'll see the same image stuck in the middle here. But if you think about what schools do, and you're involved in that, perhaps much more directly than we are, schools have to focus on the curriculum. Literacy, numeracy, health and well-being are the core things that schools have to consider. Alongside that, of course, academic subjects become increasingly separated and studied specifically, and then we're concerned about attainment and achievement within the school so that we can actually assess how children learn, how well they've learnt, and therefore, of course, prepare them for the workplace, skills for work. None of our work should denigrate that or suggest that we're doing something that is different. Our work complements that. But what schools really aren't very good at, and I have to confess I'm not very good at, is change. any kind of change. But of course, uncertainty and complexity are increasing features of our education systems, and they're real and they have to be dealt with. Schools find these things quite difficult to deal with, and also particularly interdisciplinarity, because we focus so heavily on the individual academic subjects, particularly as children go through the progression into the later stages of their learning. Thanks, Simon. Next slide, please. So where does the outdoors fit in with all this? This is our chapter 3, Learning Across the Curriculum. And the key thing for me here is that we need to be relevant. If we're not relevant, we will be history. We will not succeed in arguing the case for outdoor learning. Now, we have had some success in Scotland, and we've all, the four of us here at different levels and different stages, been part of arguing the case with policymakers, and we've been really quite successful at doing so. But throughout, we've argued the case that the outdoors has to be relevant, and we have to link to the curriculum wherever we can. That isn't to say there are lots of other benefits as well, because there are many other benefits. But all of these statements that you see below about outdoor learning supporting physical, academic, personal and social development, etc., these are all evidence through research. So we know that it works. And in particular, the outdoors does offer these interdisciplinary learning opportunities that are so difficult to achieve within a formal indoor school context. And as we've said in the book, and Simon was hinting at this just now, we should not be thinking of any kind of competition between the indoors and the outdoors. I'm as comfortable working indoors as I am outdoors, but I have the privilege of working in a university environment where I can teach in an interdisciplinary way indoors, and that's difficult for people in schools. So beyond all this, I think it's probably worth summarizing this statement here to say that if you follow the statement at the bottom, the outdoors has many, many benefits in terms of the overall attainment and achievement of young people, but in particular that it's able to bring these ideas together in a way in which is much more difficult within a school context, at least an indoor school context in particular. Next slide, please, Simon. So why is the outdoors so effective? It's something that's puzzled us for many years. And in Scotland, many years back, I was often challenged by people who said, why do you want to take kids outdoors? And I find myself arguing back saying, why do you want to educate kids indoors? Tell me why indoors, I'll tell you why outdoors. But the evidence wasn't there. There was no really good evidence base. Now, increasingly, more and more research is telling us that there is. And in a theoretical context, one of the things that I certainly like to argue is one of the reasons the outdoors is effective is because it's able to bring together the learner, learning opportunities and the environment. It's that synthesis, that resonant opportunity that provides the learning context. This is this word affordance is drawn actually from the natural sciences, an idea by a guy called William Gibson, who argues that actually affordances are what the environment offers the organism for good or ill. We use it in an educational context in that way. And of course, in addition to all that, there's these many opportunities to engage learners within the broader contexts that one might experience in the outdoors. Some of the random opportunities that come through serendipitous things that occur, but certainly being able to learn through the consequences of your actions, that there are consequences to actions, and that you are learning within a real world context. I'll just leave it there and move on to Simon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Pete. I think it's actually me now, so that's my slide. And yeah, just to say, these are the four authors here, and they're up on this slide because writing this chapter was probably the most difficult chapter for us to write. Because if you think of it, we're a Canadian living in Norway, someone from England who wants to be Scottish, an Australian working in Scotland, and then someone from Scotland whose identity is not simply Scottish. So in the previous book, we didn't say very much about worldviews, ethics, or positionality, but you know, increasingly understanding of the need, indeed perhaps the obligation to do so, presented us with the problem of well, a chapter should really be written about this, or something should really be written about this. But hey, here's the problem. What do you do? Like, do you write a chapter about it and then risk compartmentalizing all the issues into that chapter, or do you try and blend the issues through the writing of the whole book? So in the end, we've decided to try and do both. Not as an easy compromise, I have to say, but as a way of trying to keep an intersectional framing throughout all of our writing. It's worth saying that we as authors did not always agree on our own or each other's positionalities, our standpoints, our ethics, and I hope that doesn't surprise you. I hope you find that to be sort of completely normal. But finding solutions to differences, we believe, is part of the intersectional crisis we face across this whole planet that we live on and love. And so this is not just the case for us as authors, but for us as a teaching profession. And it presents us with some interesting, if not profound, questions. So how do you teach all this stuff? Well, you know, we don't really know the answers to that, but we've been playing around with the idea of how to. And it seems as though, you know, we need experience of what it's like to live in another person's shoes in order to understand and empathize with other people's feelings and experiences. And if we are to do this type of work, then it's important to first create the conditions in which our students will reveal some of their life stories to us. And so what's one of the most effective ways that I know of doing this type of work is very simply mobility, walking and talking and listening to what students care to share. So this can be done through prompted activity. For example, what's in your mind today? Or who is it that inspires you? Or perhaps unprompted activity. For example, pay attention to whatever comes up for you as you go for a walk. For us as educators, this requires deep and careful listening in order to assemble pictures of how people are feeling about different things in different situations with different people in different places. And so the key teaching point I think we want to share is that discussion is not simply theoretical, i.e. this is ideas about worldviews, but deeply rooted in students' emotions and their own life experiences. The emphasis then is not just to teach stuff, but find ways of getting students to share something of themselves and their lives. Next slide, please, Simon. Right, student harnessing. Right, I nearly had a picture of Robin Wall Kimmerer up here, and I'm really pleased that Jade shared a picture at the very beginning. Oh, look at those lovely hearts. Yeah, mine too. And so let me start from where I intended to start. Right. So one of the striking features about curiosity is the thought that it can't actually be taught at all. Right. Yeah, teaching curiosity is part of curriculums around the globe. And so we wanted to create a chapter around the differences between stuff that can be taught, and that would be sort of like conceptual material, ideas, which can be very different from the students' experiences, which can often be based on the affective domain, like, like feelings. So we developed the idea of curiosity as something taught and the idea of wonder as something experienced. Now, wonder is deeply personal, and this is where Robin Wall Kimmerer came in, and this is where I was going to use the picture, because for me, when I think of wonder, I think of my dogs, these two here, right? And they make me wonder. For example, the way they pay attention to things that I don't always see or smell, and how excited this makes them. Like if you're a doggy person, that sort of stuff, it really is quite infectious, right? So then there are rainbows, and that seems to make a lot of people stop and stare. Rainbows seem to do that to people. The thing is that, people experience wonder in their heads, others get it from interactions with others, and some get it from the places they're in. So how can you teach something that can't easily be taught? Well, in this chapter, we offer a teaching frame that promotes experiential learning, i.e. the directness of being in nature and what that does for you, like Pete's idea of affordances. And then practical learning, which is, a form of presentational learning where you have to sort of try and get our students to share some of their experiences. And then propositional learning, where you blend this in with all theoretical stuff, which Robin Wall Kimmerer does exceptionally well and probably is a world leader in being able to do this type of work. And then practical learning, okay, so what? We've learned all this stuff. What are we going to do with our knowledge? How are we going to change the world? How are we going to use this knowledge to make the world a better place? And so this teaching framework offers us not just tips for teachers, but it's a framework that identifies the primary importance of experiential learning and then builds upon that. So like most things, this type of teaching needs to be practiced and experimented with, and learning from the type, learning from successes and mistakes and trusting the process. That can be hard, especially for us as teachers who like to predict learning outcomes. Trusting the process and working with students and seeing what happens. Right, when you see things are working, you will see the energy from the students. And when you see the energy, you follow the energy. Then you truly are on an adventure. Okay, last slide, please, Simon. Thanks. This is a concentric circles model that has its origins in the books that previous books that we've been writing about as well. And one of the things about those who read our previous book will probably have noted that there was little mention of outdoor education centres. These are places where students travel from city-based schools to rural settings where they can experience nature that's different from the cities they live in, and then they return to the schools. Right, now one of our criticisms of this type of process or this type of experiences that students get is it can simply be about fun-filled holidays. Right, not that there's anything wrong with that. I know I'm Scottish and often accused of Calvinism, but that's not what I'm on about here, right? This is about not about reacting against people having fun. It's about making sure that experiences are educational as well as fun. And education can be fun too, right? So throughout this chapter, we've emphasized the continued need and use of the concentric circles model, the one you're looking at now, to try and conceptualize, plan, and increase the range and scope of outdoor learning through visiting different places, lots of different places, including outdoor centres. And we also shared some mapping techniques about how outdoor learning can be embedded across the whole school. Critically, we emphasise the need for partnerships in schools because, partnerships including not just schools but communities and potential outdoor centres that are in some ways remote from schools, to maximise outdoor learning opportunities. And essentially what we're saying is that if you're starting out as an educator outdoors, or indeed if you're experienced, then we suggest mapping these opportunities out as a first step to guide teaching and learning, and also to get school management on board. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. So chapter 5 is a chapter which I suspect will resonate with many of you and your outdoor teaching, and that is learning through place. And I think a good place to start here is that if we look at all landscape as being cross-curricular. So irrespective of where it is, if it's a far away place you see in a book with this, the classic views of mountains and seas, or whether it's a densely populated urban place with very little greenery, all landscape is cross-curricular. There's math, geography, history, science, language arts, art, you name it. It's all there. And so that's the kind of the starting point here. And another part of this also involves seeing space through and place through time. So what happened here millions of years ago? What happened? What was going on here 100 years ago? What are some of the political struggles that are happening right now? And then looking into the future, what could this place be like? Not least if we had a hand in influencing what this place could become. A term that we like is that our colleague Sterling, Greg Mannion and colleagues have used, called place essentials. So we in this chapter stress the importance of trying to center and root the learning in local phenomena. So rather than learning about the trees in the Brazilian rainforest, it's good to learn about trees in the Brazilian rainforest, but let's learn about the trees that are right in front of us in our backyard or our schoolyard first, as an example there. So let's learn about the things that are actually happening in our place first. And as this idea of not just kind of, you could almost see it as a kind of as a two-part thing. The first could be to try and understand our places through different curricular lenses, and then the next level would be to transform it and make it a more just, ecologically and socially just place. And I've included a couple of pictures there of deliberately of urban programs that we've done with teachers, teacher education programs. Community-based learning is chapter 7, and that is very much linked and overlaps with place responsive education. And the key here is trying to locate the teaching and learning in what you could call in the real world, authentic learning contexts that are not contrived in any way, but they are very much real, and they can be used, as it says here in the second point, to try and better understand some of the complex issues that are going on in our society, and what most probably in local communities that can be accessed by taking journeys outside, right? So it's one thing with place responsive education, community-based learning, is that it's not just about the sexy green space. This is about going outside of the classroom, where all sites can become extensions of the classroom. And importantly, people within the community become co-educators. There's no possible way that we as individual educators can hold all the knowledge that that would be needed for a young person to learn all about the place they lived in a cross-curricular manner. That would be impossible. So that would be and very limiting. So let's draw on community members with all of their knowledges and skills. And the idea here is that everybody, if this can be done well, and it's not easy, because it takes time to arrange a lot of this stuff with external partners. But if it can be done well, then everybody can win from this. The entire community can be enriched. I'm going to do 2 quick slides that are related. One is on risk management and one is on group supervision. So this part of the book, towards the end, starts to get more into the practicalities and some of the nuts and bolts, because what we do know is research has shown us that quite a lot of teachers who haven't taught outdoors a lot, they're not worried about how to teach math or geography. They're worried that someone's going to get hurt when they're outside, and they're worried about what they're going to do to manage that. So the risk management chapter talks quite a bit about what to do before you go. It's getting your paperwork in order. It has to do with what you can do in terms of preparing an off-site kit that'll have everything you need, that you can just, a big bag you can just grab if you know that you're going to go outside, and it can help increase the spontaneity of your learning and kind of respond to the subject matter and your students a bit more readily. And we also think it's really important to have students themselves involved in making their own risk management plan. So it's not about the adult saying, okay, I've made done a risk assessment for what we're going to do. Well, of course you will have done that, but let's get the young people involved in that as well. Then we move to, okay, now it's time to go out. How do we manage our group, right? So we've got different factors that we've got sun, wind, rain, and we've got our human needs, and then you've got a whole world of things that are very difficult to control, that might have to do with traffic or things, people you might encounter that were unforeseen. So this chapter offers some tips on how you can travel in big groups, small groups, and then how you can avoid trying to teach at a time where you're trying to move a group from one place to another. And that happens by, you can create what's called a stationary site, and where you have identified the local hazards, and you've set up boundaries and so on, and that can just, so you can change or quickly kind of organize a given space into a more formal teaching setting. So there are some ideas and suggestions in there for that. And then the final point here is just to be aware that pupils with additional support needs, they're going to have different needs, right? So in terms of how they might be influenced by different weather conditions and by changing, contrasting social situations. That's me there, and over to Heidi.
All right, 2 chapters to go. Chapter 8 was about integrating mobile digital technology. And I think it's clear that in the popular media at the moment, there's a lot of information coming through about the benefits of actually being tech-free. And the outdoors is the one place that's being advertised very heavily, at least in my popular media feed, as a benefit. But there are also benefits for engaging with mobile technologies in the outdoors for learning. So I think there's benefit for both, for health and wellbeing, and as also for learning. So mobile technologies, they really do change the way we interact with the people around us and also the places that we're in. But they can really offer a great opportunity for recording information, especially for those of you that are required to record portfolios of learning for young children or people in schooling. It's quite common where portfolios are used, and if you can record some of that while you're outdoors, it can really speed up your the admin behind a lot of that. And young people can record their own learning and upload that as well, so it doesn't have to all be solely responsible for the educator. When I refer to their mobile library, I think of the mobile phone as really a library of books. There's lots of apps and there's lots of information that people can access themselves and seek out information themselves and critique that information that they find. And then some of the more obvious, maybe for geolocating and mapping, can be really helpful. And also for remotely supporting and supervising groups. If you want children or young people to go further afield, you can actually stay in contact with them quite easily. And also there for reflection and sharing. You can record videos and voice recordings about experiences for use later on as well. I think there's 3 questions that you can ask yourself, and I think these questions are relevant to any kind of teaching application or tool that you might feel like including in practice. But that's, what are the benefits, what are the pitfalls, and to what degree do the benefits outweigh the pitfalls? And so these questions are questions I'm sure many of you ask every day. So not new questions, but trying to show here that including mobile technologies is no different to including any other sort of tool in our teaching. And while they can encourage curiosity and wonder and support self-directed learning, there's an assumption here that every child has a mobile technology, access to one, access to internet coverage. And that's one of the challenges, that not everybody does have access to mobile technologies, and your workplace may not have access to it, or may not have access to many. You might only have one, and you may be limited to internet access as well. So, and sometimes that's regions. I know in Australia, mobile technologies on expeditions in remote places is not very efficient because you don't get coverage. So there's lots of different things that we need to think about with mobile technologies. So do we have access to them? Do young people have access? And who are we stopping from having access if we assume access is there for all? Thanks, Simon. Oh, the final chapter in the book focuses on how we might evidence learning and develop a whole school approach. And this is a question I get asked a lot by educators from all sorts of places, from schooling, not-for-profit organisations, early learning centres. How do we assess learning? And my first thing that I would say is to use existing pedagogy and assessment strategies that you're familiar with. Don't try to start something new. Use what you know and start there, and you'll find that they work just as well outdoors as they do indoors. But also embrace different ways of teaching and assessing. Portfolios are a great way to assess learning in the outdoors, and closely linked to technology, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be hard copy and using artwork and other things to evidence learning. Yeah, start gradually. You don't have to do it all at once. Start in the school grounds. It can be part of a lesson, can move to being a whole lesson. It can be whole units of work. When looking at reflective journals, these are often used in the outdoors, and people often don't like them. And the main feedback through research and practice that I've found is that when people first start writing a reflective journal, they require some structure. They need our help to structure their thinking and their reflection. And they need to actually learn how to reflect. Once they have those skills, then you can gradually take the structure away, and they can start to create their own structure and their own focus for reflection, which really deepens and adds to the critique that they're able to offer. I'm a really big fan of creativity in learning and encouraging people to draw on different modes of demonstrating what they know and what they've learned through podcasts, films, artistic responses, paintings, drawings, and technology. I think my other advice is don't wait for others, have a go. If you're the only one in the school, that's okay, or in the workplace. Others will get excited by your own enthusiasm and your own success and hopefully get involved as well. But a whole school approach does make it easier for everyone. If you're in a space where you can work together and develop a whole school approach, there's some great examples across the globe. And there's a case study in the book that comes directly from a real school that I used to work with, where they started in the early years right through to the final years of schooling, where each year had a different focus, and the children learnt the skills across their whole schooling to be outdoors and to also be activists for the planet. So I think, and they were also using, drawing on individuals in the community and other organisations to help support those different focuses. And I think the other thing is, which is already existing here, what a rich community that is here tonight. I think doing this, drawing on people around you who have the same same approach, same beliefs locally and globally, and support each other by sharing resources is really important. I think the conference sounds amazing. That's up and coming. Simon and I have just returned from the European Outdoor Education Conference in Italy. And I also, along with others, regularly attend the International Outdoor Education Research Conference, which is not just for researchers, it's for educators and practitioners as well. But those opportunities really help me connect with people from other countries and other places and inspire me to learn new things. And just last week, I was introduced to a new app I'm really excited to explore for using in the outdoors called iNaturalist, and have learnt many other things and have many other thoughts to think about in terms of my own practice when teaching outdoors. And it's my task to bring this to a close. And after listening to everyone, I'm not quite sure how to do that, other than to say I think the purpose of this book, and this is the book that we're talking about, purpose of this book and from us was to show that anyone can easily take learning outside, and it's for all educators in all places and spaces. It's not just for schooling, but it is equally adaptable to schooling, higher education, not-for-profit, families, even parents homeschooling, having a go. And hopefully it inspires more people to help prepare people of all ages to really work towards addressing the big challenges that we face at the moment, socially, culturally, politically, across the globe. Thank you.
Wow. My goodness. Someone wrote in the chat, covered all parameters. Yes. Check, check, checkity check. Incredible. And if that is it, I will close the sharing if that's okay, Simon. Wow. Yes. I'm a bit blown away. I mean, as I said to Rachel before we came on, you know, I've read your work, I've read your research and the work that you've done across the globe in all these different places. You know, you're the people writing the book and it's so appreciated. But I love that you opened with the thought that everybody here has their own way of doing things. And a couple of different spaces it was mentioned around, you know, teaching sort of who you are. Of really just going out and being and doing what you are, and one of the things you mentioned about technology of yes, ideally we're off screens, we're out of that, but if you're a person who isn't the most knowledgeable about your environment, if you've moved to live in a new place from another country with a completely different ecosystem and all of the coniferous trees look the same for the first few years, and I've had to learn the difference between the cones and the barks and the flats, you know, bits of the cone and all of these things, to use an app that helps you also model that I am not a pedestal of knowledge and that we're going to learn together. It's just modeling that they don't always have to know everything in order to be successful. I just felt so inspired, you know, from each of the chapters of how I found myself within that, and oh, that sparked something that I felt I know already as someone who's done this for 10 or 15 years, and then something where I thought, I could really revisit that, or I could sit with that as a thought and as an inspiration going forward. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. People are inspired. People are lots of food for thought, lots of food for thought, sharing all of that. And by the way, if you have rules about internet and you don't have the internet, I just had one thing and I got to do it today with lots and lots of kids. I was teaching K-7. I had groups from every age group and I didn't have the internet, but what I did download was a free metronome app into my phone. Small Bluetooth speaker, very inexpensive, often can be paid for by administrators. And we were doing the different heartbeats of different animals. So we were feeling the heartbeat of the earth, 70 beats per minute for a human, 125 for a dog, 300 for a chickadee, which we have a lot of here. And it was also an opportunity to get warm because it was quite chilly in the forest. So we were jumping to the beat and clapping somewhat successfully, and it got better as we went on. But then you can do music and math and do different things as well. But anywho, I just want to say that there's just, yeah, my brain is very excited and I'm so grateful for all of your sharing. Yes, any questions that are coming in? Let's go. Okay, so Mary's asked, can you talk about accessibility about a little bit more? Is anyone here want to take on making a curriculum more accessible for folks struggling with different barriers to get out? It could be an intellectual disability, it could be a physical disability, or perhaps just discomfort with the outdoors. Would anyone like to start us off with that?
I think that all difficult questions go to Pete.
You have been summoned, sir.
Yeah. Great question, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good question. What I could tell you is that if it were appropriate, I'd go through and wake up my wife, who worked with children with additional support needs outdoors for about 15 years. But her take on this is that as Simon said when he talked about additional needs, was it Heidi? I can't remember. But just to recognise that that they have additional needs, but that doesn't make them different as learners, and to work with the same basic ideas that you would work with any group, in particularly in terms of thinking, well, what do I want to get out of this for that learner, and to try to uncomplicate matters. So I could tell you that Mary's approach was to do everything she could to get all of her learners, no matter what kind of additional need they had, to the same places that she could get others, and to work with them within that context, and just to provide accessible learning opportunities when she got there. So one key thing was that she managed to negotiate a small base in a local park close to here, where they could do basic ecology, looking at the local pond, which of course you can do accessibly if you manage it with care. But of course all of this requires additional staffing, additional support, and that's where often things become really difficult, where you just don't have the resource and you're squeezed. So I can't really offer much more because it's not my particular area of work, but I would just say that she made it work every day, by using first principles and trying to make sure that every learner was accommodated. But it's something, in a way, it should be on our minds all the time, as to how to approach this issue. Thanks.
Thanks, Pete. I would say as well, if you're in a formal educational space, one of the things my school's doing really well is buddying up with another class. So perhaps if you're a younger class, an older class, so you have maybe that sort of mentorship from the older students, not always behaviourally, but sometimes. And then you've got double the adults as a standard. Of course, you have double the children potentially, but you have those adults on hand, so there is that focus. Today, for example, we have one child within the group who has a learning support member of staff with them at all times. At first, they were standing off to the side. So what I create is two spaces. We had a space where all of the kids were scattered around to do this chickadee jumping heartbeat exercise. And then I had a quieter space that was a little bit further away. It might be on the other side of the playground or in the corner, where I had a mat with some puppets or some tactile things that were on a rug that a student could play with if they really didn't want to participate in that. So it's maybe offering a choice. And then what actually happened is this student who has autism came closer and closer and closer, and so close that they wanted to be directly next to the speaker. And they really enjoyed the vibration, I think, and the noise. And we ended up having a conversation about that afterwards. This is a student that's mostly nonverbal. We ended up having a conversation about how that felt really nice, and to wonder where that noise came from, and then to be a part of it. And it meant just a bit of time for that to come in. But also there's an opportunity not to do the exact same thing if it doesn't feel comfortable. Good luck, everyone. And we do have some workshops on accessibility that are in our workshop recording repository that are free always. If you wanted to get together with a couple of different teachers and watch it on one of your lunch breaks or on one of your Pro D days, we'd love to see you there. Okay, how are we doing for time? Oh my goodness, we've got time for one more question, and then if you stick around to the end, we will give away some little prizes. So please, please, please. Sorry that we don't have a question for everyone. I don't have time. Okay, one of our educators here has got some new educators who are just starting their learning journey, and this person might be new to outdoor learning, and they're wondering, if you had a message of encouragement to share with 3 to 5-year-olds going outdoors, as outdoor educators, as people that want to share the outdoors, what might you say to these young folks as they're going out into the world? Does anyone have a message of encouragement?
Oh, I'm sure we're all want to dive in, but I suppose I would encourage people to. It kind of goes back to Robbie's chapter. Like, what do you want to know? what don't you know that you want to find out about? Let's start with curiosity and wonder, and let's start with what people kind of, let's follow young people's appetites and respond that way, rather than us coming in and saying, oh, we're the experts, this is what we're doing today, everybody sit down and be quiet while you get educated. So let's having people ask questions about the place they're in. That's where I would begin.
Heidi, would you have one more to share? And maybe we'll ask Robbie the same question too, and then we'll close there.
Yeah, I think I really resonate with what Simon was saying. I immediately wanted to say, what do you want to know? What do you want to learn? And follow their lead rather than the other way around.
And Robbie?
Yeah, I think, Jade, there is a step before answering this question, and that is that one of the reasons why a lot of teachers will not take people outside is a lack of confidence in knowing what to do. And so the only way you can overcome that is to do it. That's the trouble. The chicken and egg thing. Like, you need to do it in order to get confident. So but then people need sort of like tactics or ways of doing things that are easy for them. To cross the threshold. So if we are to follow Simon and Heidi's advice, then my thoughts for crossing the threshold would be to do something like really, really simple, something that teachers do with their families, their kids, that they're comfortable with already, but they might not do in school. And that is like, something you do every day when you go to school. You walk in a door and you walk out, right? So rather than walk in the door and stay there, then consider how you might walk out the door very close to the concentric circles model idea again, very close to the door, and just do things within the safety of the door. And if things go bad, go back to your place of familiarity, and that your place of safety, and then maybe stick your nose out a little bit further the next time and do something more. But follow the energy, because we know that 3 to 5 year olds, they've got lots of energy, lots of curiosity. Follow their energy. That would be my thoughts.
That's so lovely. I know you didn't get to answer this question, Pete. Did you want to say one thing before we leave?
Well, just to add to Robbie's point, I would say that that comfort in being outdoors, if you've never been there before, the research evidence is pretty clear that actually, if you teach the same lesson outdoors, let's just call it a lesson for now, or the same thing outdoors, the learners will derive at least the same benefits, if not more. So what we can do as researchers and teachers of teachers, I suppose, is to say the evidence supports you going out the door. Just do the same thing to start with, and then experiment, because the kids will learn better. Probably, you can't be sure, but the evidence is pretty strong that they will. So give it a go. That's all.
Have a little go. I love that. Fantastic. And look, thank you, Simon, Pete, Heidi, Robbie. Incredible work that you've done over decades, really, to support and in the pedagogy and the research and the practice of people going outside. So thank you. I hope everyone engages with their book. I think it's like a Bible, if you will, of things that we need to know and learn. And again, as someone who's been doing this for years, I'm getting more and more little snippets. We are lifelong learners, and I'm so grateful. I just want to follow up that I think Mary or someone wrote a question about supporting different students from different minority groups or that have maybe different experiences of the outdoors. I don't think we have time to do that question justice. That's not the right link I had there, but I will send you a copy of a paper that was written by Jacqueline Scott, who's an amazing researcher and wrote an amazing white paper with Ambika Tanetti on race and nature in the city, and was really about urban populations and people of colour in learning outside or being in outdoor spaces and the differences within security or safety or comfortability in those spaces. And it's a really great start. It's got some really fantastic information in there. And I would suggest we go there. And then we also have some recordings of Jacqueline and Ambika sharing about that themselves. And so I will point you there. But I will say thank you so much for staying up into the wee hours of the morning to be with us, and for sharing your knowledge and expertise, and obviously your great passion. So thank you so much for being here. Please feel free to go off into the night and sleep if that's what you need. Thank you to everyone for being here. I'm going to very quickly just pick 4 winners. I have 2 $25 gift cards to the Outdoor Learning Store and 2 $25 gift cards to the Take Me Outside store to give away. And thus I will scroll through the list of names. And the first winner is Zahida Arabi. Zahida Arabi, you're our first winner. Thank you so much. We'll follow up by email. Next winner is Adele Dietrich. Adele Dietrich, you're our second winner. Third winner, Take Me Outside card, is Heather Barnes. Heather Barnes, you're our third winner. And our fourth winner is Lindsay Dilworth. Lindsay Dilworth, fourth and final winner. Heidi Smith, Simon Beans, Robbie Nichol, Pete Higgins, legends in the field. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you to all of our wonderful participants, both live and recorded, for being with us, learning. The work you do makes a difference. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night. Thanks so much.